where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay?
The women with the least likelihood of getting pregnant are the ones most worried about having abortions.
On January 6th of 2021, you had tens of thousands of people peacefully protesting.
No, it's not a right-wing conspiracy theory. It's not QAnon. It's real.
You know, folks, I want to talk about a chilling effect. And no, I'm not talking about the big, massive Christmas cold front that's going to sweep down the East Coast. That is a good chilling effect. I'm all in favor of that. I am not, ironically, for being a Florida man, I am not a guy who loves the heat of summer. So, look, I want to talk about ABC and the capitulation they did in the nuisance lawsuit that Trump brought against them over referring to him on the air as a sexual assaulter and a rapist. Look, given all my recent experiences with the Mike Flynn lawfare palooza, all that insanity, I can tell you one thing I know is that capitulation is never the answer. And I hate having to remind Americans that the old lesson that is, it actually apparently goes back way, way, way back to like Egyptian folklore, but I got it from my grandmother. And she said, you can sit on that dock and you can throw that fried chicken at that alligator, which I was doing, by the way, like an idiot. She goes, you can throw those fried chicken bones at that alligator, but you're going to run out of fried chicken bones one day and that alligator is going to come up on the dock and get you. And that's what's happening right now with ABC. Now, look, I want to make a big caveat here in the beginning. ABC is the home to some very fine journalists who do great reporting and great analysis. And they are important folks. They are important in our system. We should not mistake the corporate ownership of ABC at Disney and this whole massive media conglomerate, right? You should not mistake that conglomerate's decision, their political decision, with an actual legal necessity to capitulate in this case. And the reason they did it is because they think they can throw chicken bones to the alligator. They think they can keep feeding Trump. And you're seeing this whole thing happening. You've got Mark Zuckerberg, who the FTC has got Facebook under the gun right now to split up Meta and Insta. Okay. He's given Trump $1 million, gone to Mar-a-Lago, kissed his ring, kissed his ass, kissed whatever he needs to kiss because of shareholder value. He doesn't want his company broken up. He doesn't want to reduce his shareholder value and thus his own wealth. But you know, look, this isn't a legal headline. This is beyond just Zuckerberg or Tim Cook or Jeff Bezos. They all have their interests. They all and Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway had a great segment about this. About, you know, what's the leverage point? I mean, Zuckerberg could spend $1 million in a day of his time to go kiss Trump's ass. He gave $1 million for his inauguration committee and get $100 billion, God knows, of shareholder value extracted. Elon certainly did. He spent $227 million and his net worth is up $250 billion since then. You know, it comes down to, an investment decision. But again, they don't understand that this isn't rational action. They don't understand that this isn't a transaction for Trump. It is the beginning of an extortion. But I want to go to ABC again for a second before we get back to that. There's a chilling effect that's going to happen. Okay, let's not sugarcoat this at all. This is a win for Trump. Why is it a win for Trump? Because he understands that if you can shut up one of the biggest networks out there, if you can make them shut up, if you can make them cower and apologize and try to retcon the truth about Trump and the sexual assault he committed on E. Jean Carroll, then you can make any of them do anything. He understands that every editor and every journalist and every media executive, even the ones who aren't, by the way, right-wing billionaires these days, which is an increasing number of them, they're going to ask themselves, should we cover this scandal? Should we cover an administration official in the Trump second administration who raped somebody? Should we cover Donald Trump making money while he's president by these deals for these towers in various countries? Should we do any of these things that are the first and primary principle of journalism? And a lot of them are going to say, nah, can't do it. It's too risky. We'll get sued. He'll bring a defamation suit. We'll have to spend years in court. We'll have to spend money. But let's call it, again, the settlement is what it is. ABC didn't win this. They tapped out. They capitulated. And whether it was to avoid the legal costs or to preserve access to administration officials or whatever the purpose, or just fear of discovery and loss, whatever the purpose of their capitulation, it was a capitulation, and it sends a signal. Do not be naive. This is going to change how political figures in this country are covered. And it's not going to change how left-wing figures are covered, or progressive figures are covered, or Democrats are covered. They're going to still get the full scrutiny. You know why? Because they're not out there threatening lawsuits. They're not out there with a giant war chest. And they're not out there saying to you, if you cover this story the wrong way, we're going to make sure that the FTC and the IRS and whatever regulatory bodies come down on your industry are there with the fire of a billion suns. I want you to imagine a counterfactual with me for a second. Think about what would have happened if Joe Biden had said to the Washington Post or the Wall Street Journal or CBS or CNN or anybody, you fucking cover my son Hunter's story and you say one word about drugs, and I'm going to fuck you up. I'm going to have the FTC come so far up your ass. I'm going to have the IRS audit every one of your board members. I'm going to imagine if he had said that. Just think about that scenario for 1 second. That's what ABC and Disney are afraid of right now. The court case, the settlement, all that. That's noise in a lot of ways. What they're afraid of is their personal exposure to a vengeful guy who has weaponized government. And remember, every single time you hear the Republicans say, the weaponization of government, it is projection. It is anticipatory projection. They want you to think, if you're a corporate official, yeah, we're coming for you. We're going to get you. We're going to fuck you up if you don't do what we want. And look, the media is caught in a terrible trap here, okay? Public trust in the media has declined over the years. It's declined for two reasons. One, there's been a very large, consistent 70-year war on the media from the right. I came in about midway through it. I was an eager participant in it. I waged that war. I would call editorial board people. I would call reporters. I would yell. I would scream. I would tell them they were being liberal bastards who were trying to... I know the fucking game. I know the playbook. I helped write the modern edition of the playbook. Okay? So half the collapse in the trust in the media is the fault of people like me. Well, the prior edition of me, the 1.0 iteration of me. Okay. And I love reporting and I love journalism. And yes, does the media have an insularity about it? Absolutely. Does it come from a more liberal background? Absolutely. Does that affect every bit of the coverage it does? No. There's great coverage out there. We have some of the greatest reporters in the world working in this country. We have some terrible ones too. We have some people who play the game and play the access game and all that other garbage. Skip that for a second. If you end up in a world where the corporate interests make you run every single story by the general counsel first, nothing will ever happen. Okay? Nothing will ever get covered. You will not get honest political coverage. That decline in trust in the media, though, it came in part from that right-wing program that's been running for 70 years. 70 years, guys. They literally started this in the late 1950s, early 1960s, before I was born. And the end stage of that program was Donald Trump fake news. Everything's fake news. Everything that isn't pro-Trump is fake news. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. It's all a lie. That's the classic authoritarian move. You can't trust your eyes. You can't trust what you read. You can't trust what you see. You can't trust what you hear. The trust will decline further, though, and faster now. It'll decline further and faster because even the critics of the press will know they're pulling punches. Even the critics of the press will know they're not going to, they don't want to be called the enemy of the people, so they're going to back down. They're going to back off. They're going to pull back. And as American journalism has become more corporate, as it has become more subsumed into a handful of giant media companies, those companies they're not in the business of being journalists. They're in the business of owning properties that sell advertising. The journalism is coincidental. Now, look, there's a longer discussion to be had about whether we should have a reboot, a revamp, a reassessment of how we do media in this country. There are a lot of good models right now. The Texas Tribune model, these C3 media enterprises, where they're either user supported or donor supported, and they work without fear or favor. They don't have to worry about shareholder value and quarterly reports and all that other stuff. Okay, media is expensive to do. It is not cheap. It is not easy or cheap. And I think when the media gets quiet, the lie gets loud. When the reporting gets softer, the abuses get harder. Free press is the lifeblood of a democracy. You cannot function as a democracy without a free press. And no, Twitter is not the free press. Citizen journalism is not the thing you think it is. Elon and these jerk-offs on that world, they don't understand that there's an ethos and a practice and a craft to reporting. It's not just, hey, I saw this on my uncle's Facebook group, the Patriotic Patriots for Palin, or whatever the hell it is. That's not independent journalism. That's cuckoo. Most of it. The vast majority of it is just garbage. Just white hot garbage. Okay? But again, if the media gets quiet, the lie gets loud. If the reporting gets soft, the abuses get hard. Think about that very clearly. This capitulation is bad for the country. I wish ABC's corporate overlords hadn't done it. It's not a one-off legal deal. This is a pretty seismic moment. I think it's going to ripple through a lot of newsrooms, courtrooms. It's going to ripple through campaigns. And when you look at press freedom and the decline of press freedom, when you look at the balance of power between politicians and journalists, right now, politicians have all the power and journalists have almost none. And the tragic part of this is that they've given a lot of it away. They handed it over because they were intimidated that Donald Trump would audit their board members, that Donald Trump would block mergers or block deals or interfere with their company or impinge on shareholder value by saying something bad about them on Twitter. It is a bad world, folks, when reporters have to look over their shoulder and worry that their own editors, their own publishers, and the owners of their organizations are going to sell them out. It's a bad world where intimidation and blackmail and extortion and bluster from a White House or a campaign or a White House to be like Trump's can cause a journalistic enterprise like ABC to stop telling the truth. Donald Trump sexually assaulted E. Jean Carroll. That's a fact. A court has said so. A court has adjudicated him to have assaulted her. Now, Trump's narrow brain, he really sees a moment here. And this is why I think the ABC question is really, really dangerous for the country. He sees a moment here. He sees that the media is now on the verge of panic. And just like he broke the herd animals of Washington, D.C., because Washington, D.C. is a herd animal area. They're all by the water hole watching for the crocodile. And they move quickly. And they move as a group. There's rarely anybody left behind. If something becomes fashionable in D.C., there rarely is anyone left behind. They move as a pack. And he's looking at the media right now. And his people are looking at the media right now. And they're saying, well, we broke ABC. We made them panic. We made them capitulate. We made them bend the knee. I'm going to tell you, if more media folks get scared about reporting honestly about Trump, if more of them get in the headspace where they say, you know, we're going to maintain our access and good relationships with the business side of the administration over reporting without fear or favor and reporting with, pure candor and directness, we're in a very bad place. You have a lot more to worry about in a country where the media can't report than in a country where the media does report. You have a lot more to worry about if people are silenced and intimidated and held back from reporting on scandal, on corruption, on intention, on the impact of the policies and programs of an administration. Let's just say when the mass deportations start and the networks go, we're not going to show the camps because we were told by DHS that if we do that, they're going to sue us for violating national security or whatever. You can name your poison. There's any number of ways to figure that out. If you're if you're in the business of intimidating reporters, those things are not going to slip out of our control by accident. They're going to slip out by corporate decisions. They're going to slip out by people who are more worried about a quarterly earnings report and more worried about the impact of a White House and an administration that is playing games, that is willing to use the power of the state and the power of government to abuse its position, to silence opponents, to silence critics. And if you allow yourself to be silenced one time, they know you'll come back for more. I tell you, Mark Zuckerberg may have written that $1 million check, and Jeff Bezos may have written that $1 million check and come to kiss the ring. The ABC execs, the Disney execs who made this decision for their legal counsel, if they think this is over, they're wrong. They threw the alligator the fried chicken off the end of the dock. They're going to run out of fried chicken, and the alligator's coming, and it's going to eat them.